Welcome to the Mystical Truths Podcast. This is Rebecca, and I'm really glad you're here. Let's unlock your world.
"What day is it?" asked Winnie the Pooh. "It's today," said Piglet. "My favorite day," Pooh replied. I think you just gotta love the simple wisdom of Winnie the Pooh. Today should always be our favorite day because the story of our future is always being told today. We're all creating it right now. So right now is a perfect time to talk about our future. How can we know our trajectory? The word trajectory means a path an object follows after it's been thrown or shot in the air. The path it follows. Like how you throw a ball determines its path and what comes next. And using me as an example, over the years I have made a belief that I can't throw very well. So I can stand in my living room and toss an object up the stairs to the landing by intention. It's what I want to happen. But what will actually happen is most often that object will fly over the railing back down into the living room, or it'll hit the ceiling or a wall and bounce right back down to me. Because of my belief, the path of an object that I throw up the steps is not going to turn out the way I hoped it would most of the time. So that's just an example of how we can recognize what's coming out of the thoughts that we throw. How we put our thoughts out there does determine the path and what's in that path as those thoughts go forward. Now, can I form a new belief about how I throw? Of course I can. But generally what has happened through the years is that every time an object goes over the railing into the living room, I laugh, I think it's funny because I can't throw. So I'm just reinforcing and then proving that right. So the next time I go to throw, I'm picking that subject up where I last left it, which is things just going to spiral wherever it goes because of my belief. It's not going to turn out the way I really want it to because my trajectory from my belief doesn't really match the way I'd like it to be. So think about that in our future. You can think, I'd like it to be really great. But what are you actually tossing out there every day? We need to be very aware of the path that we are paving and will follow by what we're saying right now, what we believe right now. What if many of us form a belief that our future on this planet is going to be really hard? Then it's going to be. It's going to be for the most part. And that's why this is especially important right now. It's time for the majority of us to pay attention and be aware. It just isn't someone else's thing to do anymore. It's yours to do. It's mine to do. Because we've always been creators of our future. We've always been doing it. This is not new. But it's time for us to not only know that, but to be intentional about it. It's time to do it on purpose. We can't continue to assume that it is what it is, or if it's meant to be, or we don't really have much power or say in what happens, especially with this planet or the people on the planet as a whole, or that everything is God's will and God decides all of this. God's will is our free will to create, to be on the leading edge of thought and create it from those desires that we form from the contrast here. So God's will is for us to be as we choose to be. And we are choosing that every single moment, individually, for our own lives, and as a whole. So let's pay attention to that because it's really super important, right? So just as in your own personal life, the story you tell is the story you'll see some version of, and we will all see some version of. So do we really want to secure a path of technology is ruining kids? Or that AI is dangerous? Or that we're destroying the planet? That the government or fill in the blank is controlling us? Or that war is inevitable? Is this really what we want to line up for ourselves? Because it's not, most is not written in stone. So we get to choose. Are those stories, or the stories that you see playing out right now that you don't like, they just don't feel good to you? Is that really what you want to reel in again and again as we go forward? I recently heard a well-known spiritual teacher and researcher say, with intensity, we are in a battle between evil and love. And I totally disagree with that. I don't think there is a battle, or at least we don't have to create one. That's an outdated, conditioned interpretation, in my opinion. There's no fight unless we make a fight. Even at that, there's really still no fight. Nobody truly ever wins a battle. So do we want to create that fear-based trajectory, that fear-based motion forward? What's really going on here is that we're recognizing wanted and unwanted, and the power that's in that. We are waking up to, we are realizing that. So this isn't a fight, it's a releasing, it's an allowing, it's a shift. A shifting from a belief of powerlessness to a realization of personal and collective power, the good power, the natural power, the freedom. If you look back over our history, that's been the thing. Everybody wants their freedom. And we somehow, which is all fine, it's all good, it all has its purpose, developed perceptions that we aren't free, not totally, that we are controlled, maybe by government, by other people, by family, by God. None of that feels comfortable because none of that is actually true. This is what we're coming to know. This is why we're in a period of rapid expansion. We're ready. And we need to pay attention to how we feel as we go through this. How does it feel to think we're in a battle? Or that evil and love are fighting it out? That feels scary. That feels uncomfortable. It just does not feel good. So that means there has to be untruth to that. Because how we feel is direct feedback from source. That's how we know. That's our guidance, part of our guidance system. How we feel tells us whether we're seeing things the way source is seeing it, whether we are in good timing, whether what we're thinking about is going to work out for us or for the world. That's how we know. And think of the basic mechanics of the universe and like the universal laws. I don't like the word law. That's like a control word to me, I guess. I prefer the word exists or bees, as in there bees or exists gravity that keeps us physically on this planet. Gravity. It's a thing. There bees or exists cause and effect, which is an action or event and its result or results. There bees or exists attraction. Attraction is a thing. Like attracts like. Not same attracts same. Like vibration attracts like vibration. Something in that vibrational category. We know for sure that what we think has an attraction to it. And vibrational matches will show up. Every time. There's no exception to that. So what you think always has a trajectory, and therefore is syncing up with more along that particular path. It's syncing up with the stuff that vibrationally is equal to it. That's really big. That's powerful. That's reality. And it's time we don't just talk about it. It's time we actually play around with it, get to know it better, understand that that's really how life works. because there are endless paths or possibilities to anything that you're focused on, anything that you're thinking about. It's important to ask yourself what you're setting as that path forward. How do you want this to go? You get to pick. And isn't that nice? And it makes sense, and we have proved that what we think about matters completely. And while non-physical does guide us and influence us, at the end of the day, our future is ours to create by our thoughts and our beliefs right now, today, right now in this moment. And we get to pick those. We can change them if we want to. And I'm sure you've noticed I'm not the only one saying this, because it's time. So more and more are saying this and understanding it and spreading that information. And at the same time, there's a lot out there being said and even predicted about our future, a lot. And it varies. So weed out what doesn't feel good to you and just give your attention to what does feel good to you. Because there are a lot of people saying a lot of things about our future, positive and negative. You don't have to take what they're saying and decide that's going to be the reality as we move forward if it doesn't feel good to you. We may all have our own realities that then create this collective reality. I mean, there is that, but we are adding to the whole. We're adding to the collective reality. And one of us that is staying in a positive light and a love is more powerful than millions who are not. So spend more time thinking about how you would like our future to be. When you're doing that, you're helping. Use your inner radar. We all have it. And the power really is ours. We've had it all along. We're just now realizing it as a truth. And not only do we have the power, we have the ability to make our future a really good one. And we've already put a lot of good into our future, and we're doing really well. I just think we can always do better. There's always more. There's always enhancement to anything. So if you're worried about everything or anything, you're not helping. You're using the power of your thought or your attention to create unwanted, because we're always doing this. We can't not do it. And we are, like I said, we're all over the place with our beliefs and our opinions. We see it so much more today because there are not only a lot of people on this planet, but it's a small world. Through social media and whatnot, we hear a lot being said and a lot of opinions that are so different from others. And that's a good thing. That's the variety. But at our core, we all have one united belief or opinion or desire, and that's love, which does include free will, prospering, expanding. So I don't think we're really going to muck this up at all, but we can sweeten it. Let's enhance our future. Here's one easy way. You can do what I call pick your power minutes. Just use your power minutes. It's simple. It's easy. Take 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be 5. It can be 4 or 6 or 12 or 15. But say 5 minutes and feel how you would love our future to be for real. Just 5 minutes a day. Daydream. Create that brain and heart or feeling connection, because that's creating on steroids. There's so much more oomph in that. Because the power of creation synchronizes to what you're thinking and feeling. Whether it's your current reality or not, doesn't matter. That's what's being connected with. So like I said, be real about it. And you can even pick a different topic each time you do this. You can do this while you're waiting for an appointment. You can do it while you're going to the bathroom. Right? You don't have to be in a special place to do this. So ask yourself, how would I like the government to be, for example? That affects a lot of people. And I wouldn't suggest starting with where everyone gets along and agrees and we have this one party of unity. Maybe, but that could also be too big of a jump. Maybe something like, if this fits for you, a government of people who work together with their differences and can debate with respect, function without manipulation or corruption, leaders who lead with their hearts, maybe. We have 3 candidates in the United States right now running for president. Listen to what each one of them is saying, not what's being said about them. Listen with your heart to what each one of those 3 men are saying, and then go vote. What about young people? Maybe something like, I would love for them to find their own ways as smoothly as possible. I trust that the newer ones are coming in just like my generation did, to mix things up and to move life forward. These souls are smart, and I honor their personal journeys. Because if you're saying anything that means I wish they'd all just do it the way I think they should, or be the way I think they should be, you're not thinking with your heart, and you'll feel it. Because that's control and judgment. Because we can't ever all be the way somebody wants us to be. So get centered in love first, and then take 5 minutes to enhance our future. There's a lot of good already in our future. Jobs are changing. There are jobs that are disappearing right now. It's always been this way. In history, there have been whole industries that have disappeared in a very short period of time, because things must change. So when we have basic jobs or even complicated jobs that don't exist anymore, there's a reason for that. There will be other things open that are better than that, if we'll expect it. Because if you don't expect it, it'll still be there, but you won't see it. So how would you like our food to be? We've seen a lot of changes in that. We went through times where additives were put in foods that turned out to be a bad idea, had their purpose, but turned out to be something we thought, no, that's not the best way to go about it. We've modified food in a way that maybe isn't the best for us. And this is how we learn. It's all right. But how do we want it to be? Our medicine, our food, our relationships with other countries, our planet. How would you like this planet to be? Not what you don't want or what you don't like, what feels good to you. Just do that, because you're adding to the enhancement. It may not feel like it because it's just you there by yourself having some nice thoughts, but I guarantee you they count. So moment by moment, right now, the future is ours to create. What are you adding? You have the freedom to feel forward in fear and control and powerlessness, or feel your way forward in trust, in freedom, in happiness. And like I said, this is not new. Abraham Lincoln said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Pope John Paul II said, the future starts today, not tomorrow. Whitney Houston sang, the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. And I totally agree with that. Let them lead. They're fresher souls. They're coming in on the heels of what we have experienced and desired. They're coming in fresh. They're coming in hot. And they're ready for where the world is when they come in. And they have a lot to tell us, a lot to teach us. It's always been this way. It's just been more noticeable since, we'll say, the 1920s, the roaring 20s, when people started to come out. And then we had the 50s with the rock and roll stuff, and people really started to go against the rules in some cases, which shocked people, but ended up being a really great thing. The hippies, even more so, and every generation after. And the ones that are coming in now really have a determination to see change and to go against so many of the rules and regulations and opinions and societal standards that we've developed. They're not having it. So it's not new with them. It's been happening for a long time. Maybe it's always been happening. It's just happening maybe quicker now and more noticeably because the world gets smaller and smaller with each of those generations with computers and TVs and whatnot. And so what they're really saying is we can't do this the way we've been doing it. Those souls are here to prove freedom. I think it's fun. Whitney Houston was a good example. She didn't do this life according to expectations of others. She tried for a while, but then she just couldn't do it. She had to do it a different way. The way people said was not a good way, but it was her way. It's the difference. There's so much honey pouring out of a life like hers because it's not just in the good times and the happy experiences that we find that honey. It's in all times and all experiences. So things may look messy, especially if you look at it too close up. So step back, because if you look at this in a broader sense, you'll see that the story of our future is getting sweeter and sweeter. So thinking on purpose really is key, and so is following your gut. Pay attention to your intuition. We all have it. Because there's a reason why it's becoming harder and harder to tell the truth of what's going on or what's really being said or what's really happening. There are ads on social media that are AI generated and can be instructed to take a sample of someone's voice and sound just like them and say what it's programmed to say. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, how do we know? Is that really that person? Is that really what that person said? Or is that computer generated? There are political protesters that are hired. How do we know? How do we know if they're really protesting, if they really believe what they're saying, or if they're just making some money? And so much of what is untrue is being said with conviction, sometimes even with good intention. So how do you know? What is the best weight loss approach? What is the best loan type to take out? Which hacks really work? Which natural product is really a good idea? There's just so much out there that we can't really know by who's saying it or what they say their proof is. You get emails. Is this really from who I think sent it, or is this a spam email? So how do you navigate then? Because there is a really good reason why it's getting harder and harder to tell the truth. And that's because we can't do it anymore by believing what somebody else says. And that's a really good thing. Because whether they're accurate or not is irrelevant. How we feel about it, what the feedback from our inner being and from source itself, what that feedback is, that's what counts. That's what you can rely on. Because sometimes, like I said, people may mean well, but what they're saying is inaccurate, or what they're doing is not going to work out, or their opinion of what you should do is not really the best thing for you. So how do you know? You know by listening to your gut, your intuition, your feeling. So if somebody says, these terrible things are going to happen in our future, if that doesn't feel good to you, think it the way you want it to be. Don't go there. Don't follow that path of things not working out for us. So you can see how this is all really good stuff. All this craziness that we see around the world that we say, from our perspective, is crazy, not good. Some of it's really great. Some of it's curious. It all has a reason because we have created that. And we get to choose where it goes from there and what we have more of and what we have less of. So what you would like to see more of in this world and on this planet is what you should be giving your attention to if you want to have that result. So that means that every time I throw something up my steps to the landing, I should have a belief that I've already been reconditioning that says this item can land right where I want it to, or at least pretty darn close. So we all have those little things that we're working on. Now, is what I throw up to the landing a big deal? No, it's really not, but it's just a really good example of how life can be easier for us when we pay attention and realize that we did that, right? I created over time the belief that I can't throw well, and then I reinforced it. But I can change that. We can change everything to a better feeling thing if we want to. So we're always creating our future, always, always, always. We're never not doing that. And it's time that we do it from the heart and on purpose. So how easy is that? How fun is that? How empowering is that? So our future has a lot of good stuff in it. Let's just sweeten the pot. That's all I have to say about that for now. But before I sign off, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you have any questions or you'd like to be a guest, you can find me at mysticaltruths.com.